Love and light. Thank you very much. Water seems like a simple substance, but really is probably the most plentiful and powerful on Earth, with some estimates that it covers over 70% of the Earth's surface. Quite simply, life doesn't exist without it, and too much, too fast, can end life infinitely faster than it was created. A cold glass with condensation dripping from each of its sides refreshes us on a hot summer's day. And a few minutes beneath the steamy shower will clean us and prepare us for whatever that day may hold. You can even load a massive ship full of people, products, or goods, and watch it glide from one country to another. Build enough of it up behind a dam, and it generates enough power to create light visible from miles above the planet. But to me, water's true treasure comes when you're standing on the Earth's shelf, looking out over the horizon, and you see where it disappears beneath the surface. Like many, I'm drawn to the ocean, and as a matter of fact, less than 48 hours ago, I was standing with my feet buried in sand and enjoying all the scenery that surrounded me. There was a warm breeze blowing, and it blew through what little hair I had left on my head. Above, the sky was a brilliant blue dotted with sparsely scattered puffy white clouds, and below, water brushed past my legs, and it just pulled the sand and the shells that had gathered on the beach with it as it passed. The temperature was a perfect 75 degrees, and the smell of the salty air, or the smell of the salty water, permeated the air. For that moment, I was alone, and I stood there, and there were no life demands, there were no phone calls waiting to be returned, no work to be done. It was just me, my thoughts, and the ocean. And after a few minutes of taking in my surroundings, I waded out into the frothy sea until my feet could no longer touch the shore. Waves occasionally overcame me, and I took in a mouthful of the grainy water, and despite its bitter taste, I had not a care in the world. And turning back towards the land, I could see miles of beach dotted with sun-baked tourists, some lost in thought, much like myself, some sleeping. Kids that want to be kids, tossing footballs and brightly colored beach balls and frisbees across the landscape. And while I knew only one person's name within 500 miles, I gathered that there was one thing that each of us in that moment shared, as that we had come to that spot at that time to forget about life for a while. I had to convince myself out in the ocean that it was finally time. I was probably becoming more baked by the minute, and it was time to make my way back to that small plot of land I had claimed on the beach. And I gathered my belongings and dried myself off with a towel, and made my way back up to my hotel room, where I awoke the next morning. And as I awoke, I got out of bed and I walked to the window where my love lay 11 floors away. And I stood there and I just took in the sight of the beautiful ocean. I made my way into the shower, and actually I felt a little dirty. I felt standing in that water as if I was cheating on my one true love. So I dragged my pants and my shirt over my body, grabbed my bags, and headed towards the elevator, and made my way towards my next date with a car in a concrete jungle. No match for the bliss which I had experienced just hours before. After the drive minutes later, I passed through the crowded airport in Fort Lauderdale and made my way to gate B5 that was labeled in black letters over a bright yellow background, and made my way onto the plane, climbed into my seat, and sat there as the flight attendant read the all too familiar safety proceedings. And as I sat there, I waited, and then finally the plane rumbled down the runway. And as it took to the air, I looked to my left out the window, and there she lay yet again. And as I watched, her gently flowing strides overcame the sand and washed away any trace of my being there or any of those that had passed in her wake. So I laid my head against the window, drifted off to sleep in sweet dreams of my one true love. And I just sat there and thought, until we meet again, my love, until we meet again. Thank you.